very much. Thank you very much for squaring us away. We're off the mark. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for just hanging on a little bit while we were getting stuff sorted on this end. Technology, it's great when it works, not so much when it doesn't. But yeah, hopefully we're doing good. We're on Wednesday. We're on hump day. The sun's shining. And it is warm. I don't know what it's doing over your way, buddy, but it is warm here.
It's warm, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we mentioned quite a lot the last couple of sessions. Of course, the heat can affect your sleep. It's something that I've noticed quite a lot over the last week or two. So if you do want to have a little bit of a look into not just how to get maybe better sleep, better quality sleep, but of course the importance of sleep as well and how it affects that physical and mental health as well. Definitely go and check out some of the other videos on our channel that we've got, especially with it being Men's Health Week. It's a time where we should all be thinking, really, no matter our gender, I guess. We should all be thinking about our health in general. It's not just about lifting weights. It's not just about eating the salad. We've got to make sure that it's a good rounded approach that at the end of the day suits you and your lifestyle as well. I've talked quite a lot about it doesn't matter whether it's on paper, in theory, the best workout plan, the best diet plan in the world. If it doesn't suit you in your circumstances, in your needs, it's not going to do its job, So that is where the term personal training comes in, and it's got to be based on your individuality. And of course, we're all different. Our daily lives look different. So, of course, our fitness, our exercise, our food, and, of course, our overall well-being is going to be totally different as well. We have actually got a post up on social media at the minute, if you do want to check that out, an opportunity to ask a couple of questions, anything to do with health and fitness that you might be struggling with, anything that you've sort of come across in the past that's maybe been a little bit of a barrier that's getting in the way of you stopping you maybe eating the foods that you should be eating, or struggling even if it's just time to get exercise in and stuff like that around other commitments, whatever it might be. Like I say, it's just a chance to jump on, post any questions that you've got, and I'm going to sit and work through them on Friday afternoon when we roll the Q&A session out as well. So definitely stay tuned for that as well. If you do have any sort of questions pop up, either pop them in just the chat today if you want, and I'll make sure they get carried across. Or, like I say, on social media, Facebook and stuff like that, you can jump on and ask any questions that you've got. Okay, cool. So with that in mind, we're starting a brand new course. Anyway, we're starting our pre-employability and well-being course. We're going to be looking quite a lot at how the body works, but today we are focusing on that nutrition side of things. Daniel, we've spoken at length before. You can have the best training plan in the world. If you're not eating in a way that's going to supplement that, you're selling yourself short, aren't you?
Totally.
Yeah. Go on, buddy.
Well, that's it. You're just never going to be able to kind of, you need to kind of be able to eat the right amount to build the muscle. Otherwise, you're just going to be wasting it. If you're not changing your diet, but you're exercising, you might, it depends. If you're taking in less calories, then you might lose fat. But if you're eating pretty much the same and you're only working out, it's I wouldn't be too surprised if you didn't see much change, really, because it's a holistic thing, isn't it? It's not just one thing that you need to do. So.
Yeah. I remember when I first started training, pre-PT, pre-qualifications and stuff like that, I was just new to the gym, got dragged in by my mate, and I was convinced that just sort of eating, make sure you get enough protein in day to day.
Yeah.
And don't eat too much crap. And I was like, well, I'm going to put muscle on, when really I fell pretty quickly into the trap of I was eating too clean almost. So I wasn't getting enough calories in. I was, when you say like the old bro science, chicken, rice, broccoli, do you know what I mean? I was on that a couple of times a day, 4 times a day, 5 times a day. But you think that might be 300 calories a meal? You can eat 5 of them a day and still be on 1,500 calories, which is not even enough to maintain, never mind put size on. So, we've got to eat very specifically to what it is that what our goals are, what we're trying to move towards. And I see it so often that someone in the gym or in a fitness environment, or even just turning up to a class, doesn't know a great deal about nutrition and the way that they should be eating for their own body, for their own needs, their own energy needs and stuff like that. So they get talking to other people on the gym floor, other people before the class, after the class, and they're like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm trying this diet, I'm on this is what I eat. And it's all too easy to get sort of roped into trying to replicate what somebody else is doing, which might, in fair play, be working really well for them, but that might not necessarily work for you. Pretty extreme example that I have actually come across is people sort of my size, my sort of build, my body type, trying to copy the Rock's diet. Do you know what I mean? For a full week, and on day 3 they're just ill because like you can't eat that much food. If your body needs like 1,800 calories to maintain itself, and you're eating that, and you jump up to 8,000 calories a day or whatever stupid it is, it's just not going to work. It might be implementing some better eating habits. Than the way that you already are, but following it to the letter is potentially going to do more harm than good in the long run. It's more about analyzing your diet and the way it is now, and starting to make small tweaks and baby steps, stepping stones towards where you want to be, because it's the same as with your training. Like your end goal might be, right, I want to be able to deadlift 200 kilograms. If you go in and do a day 1 after you've been deadlifting 60, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You've got to build it up and let your body adapt as you go, and your food's exactly the same. If you're on takeaways every night and a couple of cans and, sarnie for your dinner every day, get a bowl of Cocoa Pops for your breakfast on the morning, like you go straight to what you're going to go out there and see as like a proper clean eating plan. Maybe it's on the social media, on the Pinterest, or even on any blogs and stuff like that. It's going to be too much of a change at first. It's not just your body's going to be getting different fuel and you might not react to it so well, but you're going from spending no time in the week meal prepping and thinking about what you're going to be eating and shopping and stuff like that, to maybe needing to find 6 hours in the week or whatever it might be, where you need to be doing these things. Whereas those are skills that you've got to develop. Spend an hour or 2 of them at a time in a week and build it up. Do you know what I mean? And just pad out what you're doing. Maybe make it so. What we do with the guys in the drop-ins on the Monday morning, I encourage people to look at the meal that they feel like they struggle the most with. Is it a case of you're eating junk for breakfast, or maybe you're trying to put size on but you're not eating breakfast at all? Maybe you've just not got any appetite when you get up. Maybe you're getting to the afternoon and that's where you're struggling, where you're snacking, because depending on where you're struggling and where you're falling down, could tell you where's the best place to start, and maybe some of the problems that are leading you, or some of the barriers that are leading you into that. So it might give you an idea where's the best place to start and what might actually be the biggest changes you can make at first that's going to give you the biggest results, without necessarily being that strenuous or too hectic as like a change. I've done it myself, where you say like, right, okay, I'm going from the diet that I'm on, I'm just going to try and just eat really clean and just get everything set up for what I need. My body needs about 1,000 calories a day more than I'm having if I'm trying to put size on. Just jump straight up to an extra 1,000 calories a day, and after a couple of days of that, you just feel absolutely stuffed. You feel wrecked because you've just got that much food coming in, your body can't process it, and it was actually getting in the way of me exercising because I was that lethargic.
Dude, I mean, I told you before, bro, when I was like 16, 17, I was obsessed with both on the weight gainer before, and like literally like it's a massive hindrance, because like I was trying to force the calories in so much that like nutritional food, like my dad would make food which had like loads of vegetables and protein. It was a balanced meal, but I'd have a weight gainer before it, so I couldn't eat any of it. So it's like I was substituting like quality nutrition for like just calories, and it was like I felt sick all the time, and it was because it's liquid, it would just sit in my stomach. So it's like, it's, I mean, maybe those weight gainers do have a place in time, but it's like something like that will never be able to replace food. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Sort of good nutritious food is going to give you fiber and stuff like that as well, your vitamins, your nutrients. At the end of the day, protein is a supplement, and it is called a supplement because it is designed to supplement a diet that doesn't get enough of it. The ideal choice would be to be eating all your protein.
Yeah, exactly.
Because,
and I think that it's good to make the distinction as well, just between like whey protein and a weight gainer as well, right? Because I think like a whey protein shake or a bar or whatever, it generally so much lighter on your stomach than the weight gainer, which has got all kinds of other stuff in. So
and then like can you imagine then, like after one of them weight gainers, like an hour later you've got to train, like you'd be absolutely wrecked. You would be absolutely wrecked. It's something that we can go into a little bit during the Q&A this towards the back end of this week, because I feel like supplements are a little bit of they're a bit of a minefield, aren't they? It's like, where do you even start? What's the right protein? What's going to suit me? And like you said there, you've got your whey proteins, and you've got like the other end of the scale really is being like a weight gainer or a bulker, whereas like your whey protein might be 100 grams per 100 calories per scoop. So
Hmm.
you can have 2 scoops, you can get maybe say 50 grams of protein in within 200 calories. So it's not essentially adding another meal. So it's a really good way of boosting your protein without taking in too many more calories. You wouldn't want your protein shake to be like 500 calories just to get 50 grams of protein into you.
Yeah.
If you were trying to lose weight and just lean up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you were trying to go the other way and you were trying to get extra calories in, you wouldn't necessarily just want to have a protein shake that's 200 calories, because if you can build that up to 500, you're increasing the chance to of course bulk up and be in a little bit of a surplus. But what Daniel was referring to a second ago was those bulkers and the whey protein probably per scoop have got the same amount of protein in.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
only difference is the rest, and where does the rest of them calories come from? In a lot of the bulkers and the weight gainers, a lot of the extra calories come from sugars. So my advice is usually go for the whey protein and blend some fruit in. Blend some fruit, get some natural sugars in, blend some oats
Yeah.
maybe,
Exactly.
some peanut butter. If you can get yourself a nice chocolatey protein or something like that. I lean towards chocolate flavored supplements because they just mix in really well with anything. You
Totally.
want to do protein cookies, make them chocolate. You want to do protein flapjacks, make them chocolate. You know what I mean? You want to put it in your oats, chocolate oats, happy days. Do you know what I mean?
So good. So good.
Absolute game changer. Like I remember when I used to be in DW, I used to have this. I can't remember what the brand was now, but it was a chocolate brownie flavored protein. And I just used to mix it into golden syrup oats. And
Oh
people
man.
used to come past and say, like, I can't believe that is something that you can get away with eating. Like, that smells too good to be good for you, you
Of
know? And yeah, there was some extra sugars in there, do you know what I mean?
course.
But
Yeah. But
being that's accounted to my body type and my nutrition. And of course, that was fit into my diet plan. And I was then planning on training an hour or two later and using those sugars anyway, you know. So when it comes to supplements, you can be really smart with how you time
it's
them.
so true,
Again,
mate. And like those little protein balls, it's like they're awesome. It's like it'll be like X amount of a scoop, or it might be a full scoop, but like be like coated in like peanut butter or something. So it's like that's
mm-hmm.
even more protein on top and some good fats, and it's like it's
Yeah.
the best thing ever. It's so delicious. I had a friend who cooked like he baked like a protein flapjack. So it had like some nice good like oats and stuff in it, but
Mm-hmm.
it also had
Mm-hmm.
like a bit of protein powder. So it's like
Oh, nice.
oh yeah, and I mean more often than not, obviously the protein powder is flavored, so it's like giving you that nice flavor. And as you say, there is a bit of sugar, but it's nothing, usually nothing too major. So I think, yeah, that you're totally right, mate.
That's it. Yeah, it is a little bit of a minefield. So again, I've helped a couple of the guys who sort of log into the Monday drop-in sessions because we do talk about that sort of stuff. It's a good chance to ask questions as well. But again, if you are struggling with supplements, if there's anything in particular that you're struggling with, you know, maybe you've gone into a fitness store and they've tried to sell you this bundle that's 100 quid, that's protein and amino acids and a pre-workout and
Yeah,
BCAAs and whatever it might be, you know,
all that
cod
good
liver
stuff.
oil and stuff like that, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
maybe you don't know whether they're the right choice for you or not. You know, that is something that we could talk about a little bit later on as well. So by all means, do any questions that you've got, just throw them in the chat, guys, and I'll get to them either today or when I'm doing that Q&A as well a little bit later in the week, just for Men's Health Week.
Yeah, but I think he just froze there, mate. I don't know if you're gonna come back because obviously sometimes you might pop back, but yeah. So I think Rob's just froze there, guys, but he should be back in just a moment. So we'll just go to a break screen for about 1 or 2 minutes, nothing, and then we'll go straight back into it. Let's have a look. We'll see if we can cover some of these. Yeah, I think it's best to probably go through these with Rob maybe. And yeah, no worries. So guys, whenever this has happened before, it's only happened once or twice, but Rob usually comes back within like 2 minutes. So yeah, just gonna go to a quick break screen for about a couple minutes, and then we'll be straight back. Okay, doke, guys. So just while we're waiting, I'll tell you what, we'll have a look at that word jumble, right? And just obviously while we're waiting for Rob, I'll give you a little bit of time to kind of look through this, see if there's anything that you know here, and let me know, and then it'll just give you a little bit more time to kind of work it out in real time there. So yeah, I think there's a couple that I can see already. So yeah, so I think I've got a few. But yeah, just keep your eyes peeled, guys. As I said, it'll be like 1 or 2 minutes until Rob's back. So have a quick look. Okay, guys. So let's see. Is there anybody recognizes at the moment? Yeah. I tell you what, because some of them are a little bit longer than other words, but yeah. Okay. I mean, the first one starts you off with I'll give you a clue for the first one. Okay, it's a type of thing that you eat that you might get a lot of in bread, pasta, and so on. So there's a little clue for that one. See if anybody can get that. And let's have a look for the other one. I'm trying to think of clues, but nothing that's going to be too obvious at the same time. So yeah, let's have a quick look. All right, so let's see, for this one, this is something that you would often get in your meats, and I think that's a pretty good clue. So you're going to get this a lot in kind of meat, and it is generally known to help you grow and repair the body. Okay, and you might think that bodybuilders would take a lot of this, would have a lot of this, because they want to kind of build as much muscle as possible. I think this one's a little bit easier, so you might be able to get that one. Rob's back here, guys, so we're just going to let him in. All right. And there we go. Hi, bud. Welcome back, buddy.
Hello. Thanks for holding down the fort, buddy.
Hey, no worries, man.
Wild horses couldn't keep us away this morning, buddy. I was always rushing back.
That's it, man. That was quick, dude. Must have been 5 minutes tops.
Yeah, man. That was with a full blue screen and a reset as well. Oh man, nice. That just keeps us on our toes, doesn't it?
That's the ticket.
That's definitely it, mate. That's it. Okay, guys. So looks like because I'm always watching in the stream as well. So even when I do get logged off, you don't get away from us that easily. So yeah, I know Daniel set you away with this word jumble. Of course, like you mentioned, it's all to do with food, all to do with nutrition. You've maybe worked one or two of them out already. We'll just start working our way through, have a little bit of a chat about them. If you do have the next one that we're going on to, by all means, chuck it in the chat. If you want a couple of extra minutes just to work through the last couple by yourself, without me coming along and spoiling them for you, then by all means, just pause it there and catch up afterwards. That's no problem at all. So the first one we had carbohydrate. So a word that you might have come across before. It's normally shortened to carbs. That might be the form that you've heard it in before. You know, the old no carbs before marbs and all of that. You know, maybe you've come across that one before. So carbohydrates within our diet pretty much supply us with energy. Your body's going to break carbohydrates down into glucose and glycogen and either use it or store it. If it doesn't get used and it gets stored, that is when it gets stored as fat. So this conception that we seem to have for years and years and years that it's fats that make you fat,
yeah,
has potentially been like a little bit debunked over the last, certainly the last 10 years. You know, this realization that we're actually getting more sugar in our diet, which is a carbohydrate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the natural sort of sugars that we get in fruit and stuff like that. Then of course you've got refined sugar, which like your white sugar that you would put in your tea and in bacon. Yeah. And stuff like that as well. It all kind of breaks down to the same thing. It's just a case of how fast and how hard the body needs to work to break it down to that level.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it can't use it, that is when it just gets stored because it's backup energy pretty much.
Of course, yeah.
You know, for your body to come back to if, you know, sources of food ever dry up because it's a survival instinct. You know, once upon a time as a species, we weren't guaranteed 3 meals a day. You know, some of us in the 21st century aren't guaranteed 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, so those of us that do sort of get that on the regular should, of course, count your blessings and feel lucky that we're in that position. We're really blessed. You know, but yeah, we have so much junk and especially sugar in our diet these days. It's so convenient, it's so easy to go to, it makes you feel good, because of course, who doesn't like the odd little sugary snack from time to time?
Exactly.
You know, they're addictive for a reason. You know, it's pretty much deliberate on the manufacturer's end to make them taste as good as possible without necessarily having regard for how healthy they are. So this is why this is as big a reason as any that we're facing the rise in obesity and diabetes cases and stuff like that. It's not fats. It's not fats. We're not getting we're getting a rise, but it's not such a massive exponential sort of jump in heart attacks and strokes and, you know, heart disease and stuff from eating too much fats, the sort of effects that you get from eating too many fats.
Yeah.
It's to do with too much sugar, just too much sugar in our diet. And like I say, carbohydrates essentially break stuff, everything down into sugars. Or all of these carbohydrates break down into sugars. And like I say, they'll either be used or they will be stored, which is why we need to be aware of how much sugar we're getting in our diet. I've just seen Gary's getting in the chat as well. Morning, Gary Bud. Hope you're all right. Hope you're sleeping a little bit better as well, and feeling good, buddy. Okay, and number 2 we had was protein. So protein is it's almost like the building blocks of everything that your body builds, repairs, regenerates, you know, be it sort of cells, be it muscles, be it teeth, be it hair. On a cellular level, your body needs protein to build, which is why you'll see your bodybuilders and maybe people that train in the gym, you see them with a protein shake, making sure that they're getting extra protein in. You know, there's a lot of emphasis put on having protein sort of shortly after you've trained, because that's when your body's, you know, screaming out for it most. You've depleted me, so give me some protein, please, pretty much. Because when we train, all we're doing really in theory on a basic level is tearing our muscle fibers and asking them to recover and adapt and come back better and stronger. So they only do that if there's enough protein there. You know, they can only do that if there's enough protein there. If you're training hard and not getting enough protein, you're going to end up with injuries, niggles, imbalances, and just not good posture, just from not recovering from the damage that you're doing to your body. You know, it's something that I go on about quite a lot. You know, recovery is part of the process as well. It's part of the journey. You know, I can understand and I respect the hustle between in the idea of I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week. At times when your training calls for it, but don't be eating into your own progress.
Yeah,
you know. Do you know what I mean? If someone says you're going to get better gains by sitting at home 2 days a week with your feet up, drinking protein shakes or recovering and making sure you're having a bath to draw out toxins and stuff like that, like that's bliss. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'd rather be doing than chucking the weights around in the gym, you know? So we've got to make sure we're recovering as well. It's not just about resting. It's making sure that we get enough protein in our diet to actually help your body rest up. I've found over the years that there is a chronic lack of protein in people's diets, especially women that I've worked with. You know, example I've used before, you might get up and have a bowl of cereal for breakfast. You might have a cheese sarnie on your dinner and a packet of crisps. You get to tea time and you had no significant amount of protein through that day.
True.
You know, so I would say I've always aimed for around about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Yeah. So if I'm about 120 pounds, then you want about 120 grams of protein a day. Yeah. A chicken breast, one of the foods that's highest in protein without carrying a load of extra calories with it, a chicken breast might give you 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's 4 chicken breasts by itself. Do you know what I mean? An egg might give you 6. You know, so that just opens your eyes to how much we need to focus on getting protein into our diets, because, you know, if you're eating 3 meals a day and you need 150 grams of protein, immediately that's 50 grams of protein at every meal. You know,
yeah.
give or take, if you think about it that way, if you split it into 3 meals, depending on what your day looks like and your schedule looks like, you could potentially split that into 4, 5, 6 meals and spread it out a little bit more. But that protein's got to come in throughout the day, else you're not getting enough, and you're really going to struggle to see maximum sort of muscle growth in terms of just toning up and developing, not just necessarily getting bigger. And we've got to have that protein in there to recover. Of course, it's not just about muscle. Like I say, I've mentioned in clients, you up their protein and you see their skin quality get better, their hair quality get better, you know, less oily, less greasy. And it's just from getting stuff in that's helping their body repair cells that are naturally breaking down.
Yeah.
You know, because cells are always degenerating and they just repair themselves.
True.
You know, me and Daniel sort of talked in a previous session about every 7 years, your body has pretty much regenerated itself again, you know, and it's that old, if you have got an axe and you change the handle 5 times and the head 3 times, have you still got the same axe?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I like that one.
It is. It's a little bit crazy, you know. If your body's fully regenerated itself, it's almost rebirth every 7 years, you know.
Exactly.
So if we think about it that way, which actually led me to when I was PT, my logo was always a phoenix. You know, this idea of, you know, reborn from the fire, that sort of thing. So we've got to make sure that we're getting our protein in, and then the next one down is our third macronutrient that we would call it, and that is fat, which, like I mentioned earlier on, I think has been pretty unfairly demonized, especially in media. You know, it's like everything at one point, not so much these days, although certain products are marketed that way. Fat free, everything was fat.
Totally, yeah.
Low in fat, all of that sort of thing. When really our body needs fat again for our hair quality, for the quality of our skin, to lubricate joints, that sort of thing.
It has a lot to do with the sugar industry. In the 70s, the sugar industry had so much money that they were able to lobby to kind of, you know, make the food pyramid and so on favor fats over sugar, because they didn't want to represent sugar in a bad light. So that's why, you know, now obviously people are aware of the effects of sugar, and obviously, you know, now and then a bit of sugar can be good to you in fruits and so on, like natural sugars, but generally speaking, obviously it can be pretty toxic and bad to your body. But I think that, yeah, obviously that's why I think that that people feel the way about fat they do still to this day is because of you know, some of the lobbying that the sugar industry did in the 70s, and I think that it's kind of put all that emphasis on fat, so people still kind of, a lot of people think that way today, even, you know. So
yeah, and here we are 50 years later. People are staying away from people going out and buying fat-free yogurts, for example, because it says fat-free on it, without really considering that flavor's coming from somewhere. Where's it coming from? It's just sugar instead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like essentially protein by itself is it could be pretty bland. Do you know what I mean? It's like, where's that flavor come from? It's got to be fats or carbs, you know. So which one is it usually? So just be aware when you are in the shops, if you are buying fat free, have a look at the food label and just pick out how much sugar's in it, which is something that we're going to get onto in just a second. In, you know, how do we identify what is high in sugar? You know, and how do we look at foods that we maybe want to stay away from? Whereas, you know, without that information, you might be fooled into thinking, oh, this is low fat. It goes in the basket. You're like, oh, I've got to use whatever's in the house. And then really you're eating stuff that doesn't necessarily suit what it is that you need to do. You might be taking a load of sugar on, like you sit and have one of these yogurts with your dinner, and then you go back to the desk for the next 4 or 5 hours. You know, you're not doing anything with those sugars. You'd be better off having fats, really, you know. So again, we're thinking about timings. There's a time and a place for sugar. Like I say, your body needs it. But all 3 of these macronutrients your body needs, which is where the idea of a balanced diet comes in. You know, fat's going to do other important stuff, like not only helping you absorb vitamins and nutrients as well, like certain minerals, like if you're not getting fat in your diet, it doesn't matter whether you're eating all the vitamin K in the world. If it can't bind to fat in your diet, your body can't absorb it. So your body, it would just pass it through and it'd come out the other end totally wasted. So we've got to make sure that we're getting our fats in for that. And in terms of storing fat as well, your body will of course store excess fats as well. It doesn't need to convert sugars into fats. It comes in as fat, and it will store that as well. There is a way and a process to eventually sort of get your body to click over to use fat for energy and not carbs.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a process. It's what we would call sort of like a ketosis, where the idea, if you've heard of a keto diet,
Yes.
which is really high in fat, really low in sugar, the idea is to have so little carbohydrates that your body clicks into this other backup that it's got built in, where it will start to use fats as energy. But then of course, you're pretty much committing to low carbs, because if of course you relying on fats for energy and still having carbs, your body's still just going to store carbs as well. But that is again something that we can maybe get onto in the Q&A, if it's something that you are struggling with, in terms of like, where do I even go with my macronutrients? How do I decide how much percentage of my food should come from protein, what percentage should come from carbs, and all of that sort of thing as well. But let's just push this idea out the window that carbs are bad for you, that fat's bad for you. You know, we need all three of these things, and hopefully now we're starting to understand a little bit why. The trick is being able to identify good sources of these foods and not so good sources of these foods. Like I say, you can't get carbohydrates and glucose and glycogen from a sweet potato that your body's going to use a lot of calories to break down.
True.
You know, it's quite a complex carbohydrate. You know, your body needs to work harder to digest it. If you were to just go to if you've ever been running or seen the runners where they get like a sachet of gel, you know, the glucose gel, where they'll just like squeeze it in. That is so fast releasing. It works now. You know, a sweet potato might kick in later on in the day after. The glucose gel is going to work now. Now again, you know, you mentioned earlier on, sugars that come out of fruit, of course, are going to be better for you than, you know, sugars that you might put into your cup or into your tea, into your coffee every time, you know, just because of the source of that sugar. So that is where the trick is, identifying what is good carbohydrates, what is good fats, what are fats that I need to stay away from. Because with fats, you move into this whole trans fats, saturated fats, you know, and it's a case of, okay, what's what, and we're going to have like I say, a little bit of a look at that when we get done with this slide as well. So that covers quite a lot of what I wanted to cover with the macronutrients, which is of course a big foundation and a big cornerstone for our nutrition. Number 4 is diet. Quite a tough one to get that, although it's only 4 letters, you know, quite a tough one to get. So diet, you might have heard in the terms of Weight Watchers, Slimming World, you know, keto diet, I'm doing that sort of thing, the Atkins diet. These are all pretty restrictive forms of eating that might work for some people, might not work for others. I find that the biggest problem with this sort of concept of diet is that when you decide that you're ready to move away from their diet, you don't have the understanding. They don't teach you how to set up your own diet from that. You become quite reliant on going back to them every time, paying your monthly membership, turning up every week and paying your membership that way, however it might be. Because it's not very productive for a company that profits from people being unhealthy and overweight. It's not a sustainable business model to get people to the point where they don't need you anymore and push them out the door.
True.
You know, that's not to say that these companies don't have people's best interests at heart and they don't really sort of enjoy seeing people make progress. Who doesn't? You know, I love seeing people hit their goals. But, you know, there's that whole marketing approach and sales approach in that they want and they need you to keep going back. I like to use the word diet in the sense of just what food you eat. How much water are you drinking? Your intake for the day. Everybody's on a diet. It's just a case of how good that diet is or how bad that diet is, which again is very specific to your goals. You know, I've talked quite a lot about weight loss and weight gain in terms of calories in, calories out. But of course, it's not just about that. It's about health as well. So we want to make sure that we're not just losing weight if we're trying to lose weight, but we're healthy while we're doing it, and we're getting healthier. We're getting the veg in, we're getting the greens in, we're getting the vitamins and the minerals, you know, which is where I've again, it's something that we've mentioned in the past, this idea of you would look at a bodybuilder on stage and say, wow, he is in probably like peak physical condition. He's got to be really fit, when really you know, their body fat's really low, but they're probably quite malnourished at that point, especially in terms of vitamin and nutrition. And they come to rely really heavily on supplementation again as well, you know, to make sure that they're getting that, even if it just be a multivitamin, which again, you know, you're much better off getting these things from food where they're naturally occurring. So again, let's just try and change the way that we perceive the idea of a diet, and start to think about your own diet, because, you know, believe it or not, you're on one right now, and now's the time to start having a little bit of a think about, is it conducive? Do you know what I mean? Is it going to get you to where you say that you want to go? Is it going to get you towards your goals? Or do we need to start making little baby steps to, like I say, tweak that diet? That's not saying rip it out from underneath you and put something new in place, because that's not sustainable. This is where we start to make little tweaks to the diet that you're already on, and we've got to identify that you are already on a diet. You know, it's not always Weight Watchers and Slimming World and all that sort of thing as well.
Gary just said in the chat quite interestingly today, says that has some Greek yogurt and he adds a little bit of honey with it just to have a bit of like natural sugar, but also still quite healthy, and obviously honey's really good for you as well. So
Of course.
that's a good idea. You know what I mean? Like adding stuff like that. Like obviously it's similar to what you were doing with your protein. It's like it's got a tiny bit of sugar in it. It's going to add flavor, but it's also going to be quite healthy.
Yeah, it's going to be ultimately better than if you've gone for the shop version that had the same amount of sugar in. Not to mention that, yeah, you can get some out there, especially sort of natural yogurts. It's got good fats in. You know, you're getting fat, but you're getting good fats as well. So you're doing your body sort of double justice, really. You know, you're getting your sources of sugars and carbs are going to be better, and it's probably going to be the majority of good fats. You know, so really, really good shout, buddy. You know, you're better off adding flavor to stuff yourself, you know, as best you can, because like I say, it puts you in this position of control. You're not just relying on trying to break down what additives are jammed on in tiny writing at the bottom of a food label. You know full well that your sugars have come from a good naturally sort of occurring source as well. So really good idea, buddy. Okay, number 5 was food, which is of course something that we need to think about is going to make up the majority of your diet. And again, we need to think about good sources and bad sources. You know, I think that again, I'll get onto this when we do our Q&A, because it links massively into mental health as well. But I feel as though we need to work on our relationship with food, and when we start to see food as the enemy, as something that we need to be scared of, it can quite easily contribute towards mental difficulties and stuff like that, you know, eating disorders when it comes to that sort of thing, you know. I've worked with people over the years with eating disorders, and the first point that you need to address, or that I've always tried to address, again, I'm no mental health expert, and they were working with a GP and talking changes and stuff like that at the time, but the first thing that I had to work on was their relationship with food. You've got to see it as something that can come in and help your journey, and not the enemy that's going to slow you down, because it's not. And you need it to fuel everything that you need to do, which leads us quite nicely on to number 6, which is of course energy. You know, if you can get away with a day or two where you don't eat enough, but it's the same as with a car. Do you know what I mean? If you're not putting fuel in, sooner or later it's going to say, nah, sorry, I'm not going any further. You know, I need fuel, I need petrol, I need diesel, whatever it might be. When it comes to your body needs food to function, you know, namely just to give us the energy that we need to get through the day. Some people really enjoy their food. Some people eat for fuel. Some people eating is a bit of a chore that they have to take time out of their day for, you know, and they don't particularly enjoy eating, but again, they just eat because they need to. I think that certainly as a society, we need to be always thinking about our relationship with food and what it means to us. Okay, so number 7, something we should be getting 5 a day of really is of course our vegetables, which is of course a good source of not just fiber, but vitamins, minerals, nutrients, all of that sort of stuff, making sure that we're not just working towards this idea of weight gain and weight loss. We want to be healthy while we're on there as well, you know. We talk about our proteins, our carbs, our fats, our macronutrients, which is going to massively dictate whether we lose weight or gain weight. It's the micronutrients, your vitamins, your minerals, that are really going to determine how healthy you are throughout the process. You know, are you getting your potassium in? Are you getting enough zinc? That sort of thing. Magnesium, which is where a multivitamin can come in and help. But like I mentioned earlier on, you're much better getting it from your diet. You're getting, of course, from a natural source, and you're going to get the fibers that come within those vegetables as well. Number 8 is meat. Now, of course, there are meat substitutes as well, be it corn, be it although I know tofu is not a direct sort of replacement for meat, but it is a good source of protein as well, which is what your meat's going to deliver. A lot of meat has got a really high protein content, be it your chicken and your turkey, which is quite lean. You move on to your red meats, your pork, of course your beef, a little bit has a little bit more fat content as well. There's research both ways that sort of argues the toss between is red meat or sort of white meat better for you. That's potentially a conversation we can have another day. I would always just say, depending on what your goals are, consider going towards the less calorific option, which usually tends out to be chicken and turkey and stuff like that, because it's just so much more lean. So if you're trying to manage calories in your diet, chicken and turkey will help you do that a little bit easier.
Fish.
Or of course, a fish is really good as well. That is a really good shout, buddy, as well. And of course, when it comes to protein, moving away from meat a little bit as well. But of course, if you are veggie, we're thinking about stuff like beans, lentils, pulses, all of that sort of thing as well. Can have a really good protein content as well. Beans on toast can be quite a good protein meal
classic,
as well.
Man. Absolute classic, isn't it?
It is a classic, yeah. So and again, just being aware of how many sugars are in the sauce that it's coming in. But Heinz have got pretty good over the last few years. Again, something that we're going to talk about on the next slide. They've actually reduced sugar to make sure that they fall into the low in sugar bracket, which is of course all marketing, but it does us as a consumer a favor as well. Because we can all have the old beans on toast without stressing too much about too much sugar. Okay, number 9 is dairy. So dairy is of course one of the food groups that we might be looking at on the Eat Well plate. If you've ever seen the Eat Well plate, it just gives you the idea of portion sizes and stuff like that as well. There is a place in our diet for dairy. Milk, yogurt, cheese, all of that sort of thing. Of course, again, some of them are going to be better for you than others, but just understanding that this dairy, of course, delivers a good whack of calcium, usually a good whack of fats as well. Again, thinking about how healthy those fats are, how good for you those fats are. But of course, dairy is a big part in our diet, and especially in kids as they're developing and growing up. Of course, it's really helpful for like bone strength, bone density, and stuff like that as well. And at the other end of the spectrum as well, when you're getting a little bit older, I've worked with older clients that are working to stave off osteoporosis and maybe even to deal with early onset osteoporosis, and dairy and calcium is really good at helping deal with that as well as a bit of resistance training as well. Number 10 was one that you gave us a second ago, buddy. It is of course fish. We've got, I've been on holiday to several countries that are very Mediterranean, be it sort of Greece, be it Spain, and because they live so close to the sea and so much food comes out of the sea, of course they end up eating more of it. And it seems to me like when I've been over there, just the quality of diet is so much better than we have over here. And of course they have access to a lot of the same junk that we've got.
I mean,
their bulk diet comes from it comes out of the sea, it comes out of the fields, and it's just so healthy for you.
But dude, I've been to like Asia obviously quite a bit, and like in
of course, yeah.
For example, in Japan, obviously, there's some of the places with the highest life expectancy in the world, and they eat a lot of fish, a lot of sushi, and even just generally most of Asia, they don't eat a lot. They don't have like carbs. Obviously, we talk about how good carbs are, and of course they do have carbs, but like we usually eat chips, we usually eat bread, and they don't really eat much bread. They don't really eat many. They don't have chips. I mean, you can obviously get them, but like it's generally rice and noodles.
Well, of course,
and obviously rice is so much lighter, and then you mix that in with stuff like a lot of fish, like as you're saying, and then it's like it's a lot. It turns out to be a lot cleaner, I think, a lot of the time.
I think it is, yeah. I definitely think it is. Like you say, because I mean, of course, you've spent a lot of time over there. I've never been. What's it like? Potatoes? What's potatoes like? Just white potato?
Yeah. So just a lot of white potato, but like they generally don't have things like mashed potato or anything like that. Usually you can get like dishes which have potato in them, but it'll be
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
so like it's how you might have a potato in a curry, so like cubes of potato and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
generally speaking, it's like rice and noodles. They're the two ways to go. So that's kind of what they do. But yeah, I'm not sure about. And obviously, I tell you what, actually, a lot of sweet potato stuff as well. You can get sweet potatoes over there, which are pretty delicious too. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah,
Yes, sweet, sweet. That's why I was curious there because of course white potatoes, of course they're not the worst carbohydrate source in the world, but something like a sweet potato, your body just responds to it like a
totally,
little bit better.
totally
Your body breaks it down differently.
delicious as well. Really good.
They really are. They really are. I was always dead skeptical before I had my first sweet potato, and I had some sweet potato fries,
Yeah,
and I was just sold
it's
absolutely day
unreal.
one.
It's
It is, and
it's
I'll use sweet potatoes now as a jacket potato with tuna.
yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't have thought those two flavors would go together at all. But yeah,
No, I can
I'll
see that.
probably have more sweet potato than white potato. Which of course there's a little bit of like of course fitness hype around them, but rightly so as well. You know
Really good.
they are just that shade better for you as well.
Yeah,
Um,
if you
like,
get like sweet
go on,
potato
buddy.
mash is unreal as well. Like sweet potato
Yes.
mash is so good
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, 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 definitely. So, yeah, I guess that might be our endorsement for the day. If you haven't tried a sweet potato, this is Mr. Fussy Eater over here, and I'm telling you that sweet potatoes are a godsend. Like, definitely, definitely. So, give 'em a whirl. Okay, guys. So, we did fish. 11 was calcium. Again, links in with dairy. It is it's a mineral that's really good for your body, for your bones, for your nails, for your teeth. And just making sure that they develop the way that they need to, especially when we're at a bit of a younger age. Um, Number 12 is salt, something that we might not be necessarily adding a load of. Depending on how much you like to add salt to your meals and stuff like that, and to your cooking. The problem that we find these days is that a lot of pre-packaged food comes with a lot of salt already in it, and because we don't
Yeah,
taste it outright, you might not even realize that it's there, or you might not be aware how much is there. So the powers that be, the NHS and the foods agency and stuff like that, they recommend no more than 6 grams of sugar salt a day, which is a teaspoon and a half. When you think about it. So it's not even the amount of sugar that you would put in your cuppa if you have 2 sugars a day is more salt than you should be having day to day, you know. And like I say, it's a really good preservative, which increases shelf life of food. They can ship it from further across, from further away in the world. It helps of course, with sales, and like I say, helping things last longer once you get them home and in the cupboard and in the fridge. But we need to be aware how much we're actually taking in on a day-to-day basis, because we can actually have too much. It's not great for your heart. Of course, the flip side of the coin is if you're not getting enough salt, you can lead to quite a lot of cramping and stuff like that as well. You can get muscle cramps. So maybe if you're suffering from that quite a lot, you could be thinking about how much salt is in your diet as well. But yeah, we do need it. It's an electrolyte. It's sometimes classed as or recorded as sodium on food labels. So if you see on a food label sodium, that's all it's referring to.
yeah, I
Just
know. I've
salt,
seen
to
that.
be honest. Yeah. Okay, number 13 is of course water. We are essentially 70% water, so we should be making sure that we're keeping it in. We're refreshing it. I've definitely found that having a good water bottle helps me make sure that I'm getting enough water in day to day. Do you know what I mean? Just something you can sort of keep by your side throughout the day, and just sort of keep supping on. I found that if I'm saying to myself, right, I'm going to go to the tap every now and then and just neck a glass of water, I end up getting distracted. I end up getting busy with work. I end up replying to emails, messages, whatever it might be, and you end up not getting enough water in. I've mentioned before, I've even sort of showcased one where it was a 2 litre bottle I used to have. You just fill it up, and then you can work through it throughout the day, and if it's empty by the end of the day, you've had your 2 litres. Happy days, and you can sort of put that at rest a little bit.
I've started buying. Obviously, it's not the most efficient way. The most efficient way is what you just said. I think definitely. But what I do is I bought these big bottles, like loads of bottles of water,
Mm-hmm.
like plastic bottles. And obviously, I know it's not the most environmentally friendly. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
what I like to do is I'll put them in the fridge, and then I
Mm-hmm.
can like just pull them out randomly, and it's like it's a similar thing, but it's awesome because it's like a nice cold water,
Yeah,
and it's just
yeah.
so much easier to drink than if I'm just having like the old council pop. You know what I mean? And it's
Oh, definitely, mate. Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
absolutely delicious. It's like lush as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I prefer it when it's a little bit chilled
yeah,
as
man.
well. So yeah, just let it sit in the fridge for a little bit. Like fill it up the night before. That's what I used to do with my big one.
Yeah, yeah,
Fill it up the night before, stick it in the fridge, and then sort of throughout the day, even if you're at home or working from home still, especially while it's that convenient, just bang a load of ice in it in the middle of the day. Do you know what I mean? And just bring the temperature down a little bit. I used to have it was amino acids, which again we can talk about supplements a little bit later on in the week. But it was it was just a powder that you used to put one scoop of into your water,
yeah.
and it just used to sort of like drip feed your muscles throughout the day, and made it was cola flavor.
Oh wow.
So you know when you used to go to like the ice cream van or the shop round the corner and it where you get like the ice pops for maybe 10 pence, and you get the cola flavored ones.
Yeah, of course.
If you were to let them melt and just snip the top off and just neck it down like I used to, like proper cola shots,
Oh,
it would taste exactly like this used to.
that's
And I used to get through 2 liters, no bother in the
wow,
day,
man.
and then be like, right, obviously I wouldn't just go and have loads more of that because it's a supplement, it plays a
Of
role.
course, yeah,
But
yeah.
then I would be moving on and getting even more water in the day. So finding a way that even helps you get it in. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
definitely.
it's something that we've talked about between Alex and myself over lockdown. Like if you can drink even just cordial, put a little squirt of cordial in or something like that. It's not perfect, but it's better than going and getting Lucozade and going and getting your sports drink and your
What?
energy drinks and your pop
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And of course, we're getting this water in, which our body needs.
What's it do? What does water like do to your body? Because I hear so many people say like that it's so important. Like people say, 6 glasses of water a day. I've heard before. So it's like, how,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
it just obviously, I guess it just hydrates you, right? It just kind of gives you
Mhm,
the kind of
mhm.
vitality I think that you need, I guess.
Yeah,
But
brain
brain
function.
function,
If you
yeah,
think how much of the brain is actually water, we've got to keep it hydrated. When it comes down to the rest of the body, like I say, it's just replacing fluids that your body loses through
hmm,
through sweating and through exertion and moving and stuff like that because water makes up a large part of our cells,
yeah,
which is it's a little bit deeper than we need to go for the purpose of today. But your cell, like your brain, is X amount of water, and without that water it can't do its job properly, and your body naturally loses water through bodily processes, urination, stuff like that. So we've got to keep it coming in, and
hmm,
of course, moving on to the more graphic side of things, you can of course use the color of your urine to just let you know how hydrated you are as well. If it's a really sort of dark color, it gives you an idea. Maybe to get some more water in you. When you start drinking more water, probably the first thing that you notice is that you're going to feel like you need to go to the toilet like permanently. It's just this constant feeling of, I've got to go to the toilet again. But that is your body not really knowing what to do with the extra water that's coming in, and it just flushes straight through as well. So just again, build it up. Don't go from 1 liter of water to 4 liters of water. Build it up, liter and a half, 2 liters, and work up that way, because it's the same as food. It's the same as exercise. You need to build it up to give your body half a chance at sustaining it, because a big sudden drastic jump makes it so much harder for your body to sort of adapt to it and adjust to it. That's for sure. Okay, so we've got our last few of these to do. Number 14, a little bit of a trick one because it's two separate words. It is, of course, a food diary, something that can be really, really beneficial in tracking what you eat, giving you an idea how much of anything you've sort of taken in throughout the day. And we're really lucky these days that we've got electronic ones on our phone. We've got apps, stuff like MyFitnessPal, that you just point at a barcode, and it'll scan it in all the nutritional information. You can say, I've had half of this. It halves everything, and it says, right, okay, you've had 20 grams of protein, 40 grams of carbs, whatever it is. Happy days, and you've got a really good idea what you've had from day to day. So you can look back on at the end of the day or at the end of the week, and you look back on habits and maybe days that you felt better, days that you felt a little bit lethargic. You can look at the food that you've had throughout those days. And of course, if you're working with anybody that's giving you a little bit of guidance, even if it's just myself, if you've got a food diary, you can come to me and say, okay, this is what I'm looking at, this is what I'm dealing with. It gives me information where I can then take away, okay, like okay, you've had this amount of calories this week, your body weight hasn't dropped. Do we give it another week on this many calories? Do we drop it further? Do we need to increase it? Whatever that might be. But being able to monitor your food is really, really helpful in just being aware of what you're eating. I think, like if you know that you need to track everything, and you are tracking everything, you're much less likely to pick up that biscuit or that packet of crisps, knowing that you've either got to put it on your tracker, and when you look back on it, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed that you caved in and had them, or you're going to omit them from your tracker, which makes your tracking totally redundant anyway. So you've then given yourself a total waste of time, really, and a waste of effort. So if you're not tracking everything, to an extent, you're making things a little bit harder for yourself. But tracking anything at all, I feel, can make you just be a little bit more aware of what you are eating, a little bit more in tune with your food choices, which can sometimes be enough to start seeing progress. It's funny, because you don't need to necessarily be tracking it to just be thinking about what it is that's going into your body. I just find that tracking it encourages that sort of vigilance. Do you know what I mean? That mindset where you actually are thinking about what you're eating and not just mindlessly eating. I find that a food diary helps keep you a little bit more honest. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a good point, man.
Yeah. Number 15 is sugar, which is something that, again, we've talked about at length, is quite abundant in our diet, and certainly convenient depending on what choices you're making in the supermarket, especially over the last year. Maybe it's the brand of stuff that you're normally getting. Maybe it's the food that you've gone to get has actually been out of stock. We all know what the shops have been like over the last year in terms of just not being able to get hold of stuff, keeping stuff in stock. Maybe you've actually had to make choices over the last year and make food choices that you weren't expecting, and maybe you've realized that you don't really know what's on these food labels and what it's trying to tell you. That might be why you sat watching this session. That might be the journey that's led you to us and to where you are. But sugar, like I say, sugar in your diet, we want it to be 90% of the time. We want it to be trying to cut that sugar down. I find that normally, with most people that I've worked with over the years, if you can start swapping sugar for protein, that's one of the biggest changes you can make in a diet to start getting people on the right track, because they're not only having less of something that's setting them back, they're getting more of something that's actually pushing them down the line towards their goals and where they want to be. And like I say, in a second, we're going to get a look at how we actually identify which foods are high in sugar, and some of the marketing techniques that can be used to blindside us a little bit, because that could be quite interesting to look at as well. So number 16, last two to finish us up. Number 16 is grams. Of course, it's a measurement. It's a unit of mass. It is something that we can use and will be using when it comes to looking at our nutrition. Chances are grams is going to be what you record your food in. It might be I had 100 grams of white rice with this meal, and I had 30 grams of chicken breast, and from there, especially if you're putting it into something like MyFitnessPal, that's where it'll say, okay, if you've had 100 grams of chicken breast, you've had, I don't know, you've had 30 grams of protein, you've had this amount of fat, this, that, and the other, which takes away like a pretty complicated step, which is why I always do sort of endorse and recommend using something like MyFitnessPal to track, because it takes the information that you put in and does with it some of the steps that a personal trainer would. So it can actually take some of that step out, because you might have the information in front of you. I've eaten this, and then what does that mean? What do I do with it? Have I had enough protein? Have I had enough carbs? So something like that can actually help you actually interpret what you've had and not just record it as well. And then, of course, we've got our last one is labels, our food labels, which I've found over the years, your ability to read what's on a food label and interpret what's there can actually make or break your diet and your food choices, really. You might have, and in fact, if you can load the next slide up for us, please, buddy, this might make a little bit more sense. So food labels have the option, and that's the important thing to think about. They have the option to let you know through a color system, through a traffic light system, whether a food is high in sugar, fat, salt, low in or low in those things as well. But they don't have to put these colors on. So coming back to the idea of grams, what we can see there on the left-hand column of the chart that we're looking at now is what is high per 100 grams, what's medium per 100 grams, and what is low per 100 grams. 100 grams is what we're going to be using as almost like our measuring stick, because by law, foods need to put that on. Any food package you put up should have the nutritional information per 100 grams. It won't necessarily tell you per portion. It won't necessarily tell you per serving or per packet, but it will tell you and needs to tell you per 100 grams, which is where this information comes in and helping to figure out what's actually on those food labels. So per 100 grams, which is now the column that we're going to look at straight away, if we're looking at it and it says per 100 grams we've got 15 grams of sugar or more than 15 grams of sugar, that is a food that is high in sugar. Now, if they were going to use the color chart, it would show up as red. But like I mentioned a second ago, they don't have to use the color chart. So chances are foods that are high in these things aren't going to use the color chart, because that would just be advertising we are unhealthy, and like they they leave it up to you. They put the onus and the responsibility on you to be able to make that choice. It is funny if something's marketed as healthy, but you're not seeing green on there, you know, to say we're low in this, we're low in that. I'd be a little bit skeptical and starting to wonder why. So between, so again, we're always talking per 100 grams. Between 5 grams and 15 grams of sugar is in the medium range, and under 5 grams of sugar per 100 grams is considered low in sugar, which brings us back to what I mentioned with Heinz earlier on and their baked beans. They were, at one point, I believe, they were high in sugar. For a good while they were medium in sugar, and then they revised the recipe again to come in at, I think, 4.9 grams of sugar per 100 grams. So just squeaking into that low bracket, but they are there now, you know, which is where they can put that they're low in sugar, and chances are on the product themselves they're going to have that green color marked on there as well, because they're happy to let you know that they're healthier than they used to be. Fats, we've got over 20 grams per 100 grams considered high. Between 3 and 20 grams is considered medium, and under 3 grams is considered low in fat. Then we've got saturated fats, which is the fats that are going to could be a little bit more harmful to your body. They're a little bit more processed. They're maybe coming from your bad foods, you know, your fast foods and stuff like that. So over 5 grams per 100 grams is high. When it comes to saturated fat, 1.5 to 5 grams is considered medium, and under 1.5 grams per 100 grams is considered to be low in saturated fat. So again, something to look out for. And like we mentioned earlier on, salt is something that we need to moderate how much we're having in our diet as well. So over 1.5 grams per 100 grams, again, remember per 100 grams, that's not per packet, that's not per serving, that's per 100 grams. You might be eating something that's only 50 grams. You know, but if it's got 0.75 grams of salt in, you know, that would be considered high in salt, because if you build that up to 100 grams, it's 1.5, it's at least 1.5 grams. If that makes sense anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll get a look at that in practice in just a second when we're looking at some food labels. Of course, salt between 0.3 and 1.5 grams is considered medium, and per 100 grams, anything under 0.3 grams is considered low salt. So that tells you how little salt we actually need in our diet. Per 100 grams, they don't even allow 1 gram of that to be salt to be considered healthy or to be considered low in salt. You know, if 1% of the food is salt, we're falling into that medium bracket, aren't we? So that is where we need to, again, just be a little bit skeptical of what we're eating. Okay, buddy. So if we look at the next slide, we can actually look at this in practice. So again, we've got our per 100 grams column. Of course, the column on the right-hand side lets you know per serving. But again, we need to be looking at that per 100 grams to know whether something is high, as to whether you're actually going to be eating a serving of it or not, really, you know, because we might actually be able to look at the 100 grams column and pull away some information that lets you realize that this is a product that you don't even want to put into your basket and get to the point where you're eating a serving of it, you know. And of course, you'd probably be pretty doubtful that that's going to be the case with Kellogg's Fruit and Fiber. I mean, how could it be? It's got 2 of the best things for you in the literal title, you know. With fruit and fiber, you know, we've got a lot of fruit on there making up the picture. I would say that looks like a pretty healthy product. You know, at the top it even says high in fiber. What's the other one? With whole grain as well. You know, so it's hitting those buzzwords, and it's hitting those areas that might get you to think, oh, that's a really healthy product. That is. But let's start using what we looked at on the chart just a second ago. So we can see at the top of the slide, we've actually got the per 40 gram serving, and it breaks down all of those nutritional quantities. So I don't know if it's possible to have a little zoom on that actually, buddy, just to
Yeah.
be able to being able to read them charts a little bit better, so we can actually see what we're breaking down here. So we can see from 40 gram serving, 2.4 grams of fat, 1.4 grams of saturated fat, 9.6 grams of sugars, 0.4 grams of salt. What stands out to me straight away that this healthy food that wants you to consider it as a healthy breakfast option hasn't got the colours on there to say, yes, we are healthy. Yes, we are green. Yes, we are low in this. We are low in that. And to me, that gets alarm bells ringing, and I start to think, why? So again, if we're looking at the 100 gram column, because that is the one that we need to be looking at. So per 100 grams, 6 grams of that is fat. Yeah. So 6 grams of fat falls straight away into the medium bracket of that color chart that we just looked at, so it's not low in fat. It can't promote itself as low in fat, which straight away, something fruit and fiber, you wouldn't expect it to be anything other than low in fat, really. Yeah. I wouldn't, certainly taking it at face value. How much of those saturated fats, how much of those fats are saturated? 3.5 grams. So going back to the chart just for reference, 3.5 grams per 100 grams of saturated fat is medium again. So it's not just medium in fats in general, it's actually medium in bad fats that your body doesn't actually really need or want.
Yeah.
Which straight away, like we're talking red flags and a little bit of eyebrow raising going on already.
Sure, man.
It's the carbohydrates that gets me. So carbohydrates, sugar, per 100 grams, 24 grams of sugar. And if you can just pop back to that last slide, buddy, so we can get a look at that chart again. What is considered high in sugar per 100 grams? 15 grams of sugar. So we've got an extra 10 grams on top of it. We've got nearly double the amount of sugar per 100 grams than it takes to be considered high in sugar. You could half that amount of sugar and still just be sneaking into the medium bracket, which is absolutely crazy for something that is marketing itself as a healthy option, good source of energy for food. That is a lot of sugar to be coming out of a breakfast cereal that we might be having every day. And something that I've sort of mentioned before as well, if it's almost worse, I would say, to consider that to think that a food is healthy for you because you're going to eat it more often. And you might have this every morning for breakfast. Oh, I'm making a good food choices. Breakfast cereal bars. Oh, yes, I'm getting a good breakfast dinners every day. I'm making that effort. Whereas really, you might not necessarily be needing a lot of the stuff that's coming out of these foods at that time of day, even, but yeah, rather than just saying to yourself, okay, this food's a little bit unhealthy, it's a little bit of a treat, I'm going to have it in moderation. If you think that something is healthy and it's not, and you're having it every day, you're actually taking more steps back over than you might realize. You're
more likely to eat more as well, because you think, oh, well, I had something healthy for breakfast.
yeah, it's healthy. Yeah, not to mention, especially when it comes to if we can just go back to that. I think you're already there, buddy. Actually, back to that fruit and fiber slide. Yeah. Again, it's got the serving is 40 grams. Who weighs out 40 grams worth of cereal? I don't weigh cereal out. Do you know what I mean? You might actually end up with double. Next time you weigh a bowl of cereal out, weigh it out compared to the serving size, or weigh the serving size out and get a look at how much it actually is, because you might surprise yourself that you might be having double. You might be having double the portion size of something that you think is healthy for you, but it is actually not, and that is where you might think to yourself, I'm making good food choices, but I'm not losing weight. I'm not feeling any better, when really these the food manufacturers actually just making it hard for you to determine what's actually good for you and what's not, because of course they want you to eat, they want you to buy their product at the end of the day. Of course they do. Okay, so that was sugars. There's one more to do. Of course, we've got salt to do as well. So per 100 grams salt, we have got 1 gram, which I know just from when we mentioned that on the last slide that is medium. So this healthy breakfast cereal, if we were to color in that color chart at the top, we would have fat would be orange, saturated fat would be orange, Yes, saturated fat would just be in the orange as well. In fact, no, I tell a lie. Saturated fat would be 1.4. It's just under, isn't it? It's just under it. So it's at 1.4, just under 1.5. So just sneaking in. So we would have an orange, a green, a red, and another orange. So 1 green out of 4. Is that as healthy as we think that they're trying to make it out to be? I don't think so.
Definitely not.
You know, I think they're definitely trying to pull a fast one on us there. And you know, they're not the worst brand for it. There's other brands out there that are doing it, but Kellogg's are definitely ones for that. Am I right in thinking Kellogg's do Cocoa Pops? Or have I just totally made that up?
No, that's I mean that's definitely possible, dude.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
see that.
And I know full well that there's not as much sugar in Cocoa Pops as when I was growing up, because again, you know, they've revised the recipe and they've been forced by food standards to reduce sugar, you know, because at some point it stops becoming a breakfast cereal that's suitable for kids before you send them off to school in a you know, a confined space with 30 other kids and one poor teacher that's got to look after them all day. You know, it just sets them up really poorly for the rest of the day. You know, and it sooner or later it's got to become a dessert, hasn't it?
Definitely, exactly.
It's got to be a dessert, and you know, who's having dessert for breakfast?
Well, that's it, mate. I mean, I'm looking at a box of Crave now, and that's got Kellogg's on the top of it, so they definitely do Crave.
Okay, yeah.
But
yeah.
mate, that's it. It's like it's weird how it kind of transformed into that, because there's a far stretch from like porridge, which, you know, I would consider like through and through breakfast. You know, that's what porridge is, man. I mean, it is a bit hearty, obviously, big carb dense, but it's a breakfast. That's, you know, that's the thing. But so that just classifies for me as like a breakfast. And then even Weetabix, I would say, you know, it's a wheat biscuit. Obviously, there's probably some stuff added to it, of course, but I would still say, well, that's pretty fair enough. And then if you get something like I don't know, whatever, like Lucky Charms, Cocoa Pops, it's like, well, how's that the same thing? It's like, because all of us, because that's just like, it is just as sweet, and it's like it's that thing where, like, if I offered you chocolate bar for breakfast, you'd be like, not you, but just the royal you, you'd be like, definitely not, because who's going to eat that for breakfast? But then if it's like a bowl of like a chocolatey cereal, somehow that's acceptable. And I mean,
exactly.
it's like, it's weird. I don't know how that's became a thing, but that's just what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. You'll notice that Nutella's rebranded itself as hazelnut spread and not chocolate spread.
Yeah, well,
you know,
there you go, right?
They went through a phase. I remember the adverts on telly where they were trying to recommend it as a healthy breakfast for kids, and rightly so. Whoever it was, the powers that be came out and said, no, you can't advertise chocolate for kids on the morning, like as a breakfast option. It's just not happening. You know, which makes you wonder why they get away with some things, but not other things as well. But that is a really good point, buddy. You know, when you say that to, certainly, especially during the war and rations and our history as a country, we've always grown a lot of our own foods. We've breakfast as well, you know, can be, it's called a full English. Your sausage, your eggs, your bacon, your toast, your beans, whatever it might be. Granted, they can be quite fatty. They can be quite calorific.
But we know is here, dude, right?
Oh, okay.
And let's just look at the advertising, right? So it says there, have you tried me as an afternoon snack? I'll tell you what, I'll make the camera window a bit bigger so you can kind of see it. And it says, try me as an afternoon snack. And then it also says underneath, it says, it's not a secret, I'm looking at, to boost alertness before school. So it's obviously advertising to kids, right? But obviously, like, we can look at the label on the back here, mate, and I'll give you a quick look there.
Should we do it? Should we break it down? Let's do it.
So it says, I don't know, it's hard for me to get it in where I can see it.
Of course. I'll tell you what, buddy, because I don't know if it's reversed actually with it being on the camera.
Oh, it might be, yeah, actually.
I'm not sure actually. I know when I've held. Yeah. No worries. So we've got right. What we going with first, mate?
Do you want the per 30 gram serving or per 100? Because
go per 100 again, buddy, so we can use this chart and just translate it.
Realistically, as well, who is going to have a 30 gram serving? That's like nothing, that, right? That's like tiny. That. So, anyway, so it says, so per 100 grams, it's 1.9 grams of fat.
So for fat, we've got 1.9. Did you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
1.9. So fat We're low in fat. Happy days.
Brilliant. And then it says of which saturate 0.7 grams.
Okay, that's low as well. Yeah.
That says carbohydrates 77 grams.
Okay.
And it says of which sugars 19 grams.
19 grams of sugar, so it's high in sugar again.
Yeah.
It's high in sugar. But that's even more eye-opening to me, because that's lower in sugar than the fruit and fiber.
Yeah, which is crazy, right?
The chocolatey breakfast cereal has got less sugar in than fruit and fiber. Yeah.
Weirdly, it says protein in 100-gram serving is 8.7 grams of protein, which is, I mean, they must be considering that with milk as well. They must be adding the milk in there, right?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially, some food labels will say with like X amount of milk and stuff like that as well.
But it says, and it says it's fortified with vitamins and iron, and it says that iron helps alertness, and then it says that vitamin B12 helps release energy, and that it's high in fiber. And then obviously it does have some vitamins that they've added in the back here as well. But I still think that overall, that's not going to really counterbalance the sugar, because if you ever had Wheatos, it is pretty hefty, like on the sugar.
It is, and like you say, buddy, it's not just about what you're having. Normally, it's the time of the day that you're having this as well. Because, like you say, if you're eating a bowl of Wheatos and going on a construction site and lifting bricks and cement and stuff like that all day long, you're gonna have no problems, really. If you're eating a bowl of Wheatos or fruit and fiber or something that's got that much sugar in, and then going and sitting on your office desk or being quite sort of stationary and quite idle for the rest of the afternoon up till dinner time, you've had no chance to necessarily burn them sugars. And then you might think to yourself, okay, I've had a healthy breakfast, I'll treat myself for my dinner. I'm gonna go and get a meal deal that comes with a sarnie and a cookie. So you think you've had a healthy breakfast choice when really you haven't, and then you just compound on top of that throughout the day. Like I say, you might be better off just admitting to yourself, right, I've had a slightly less healthy breakfast. I need to make sure I've got a fully better alternative for dinner, or coming back to what I mentioned earlier on and looking at, if I'm struggling at breakfast, why am I struggling at breakfast? Can you meal prep something to just get up and get out? You know what I mean? If you need something that's just as easy as pouring a bowl of cereal, then you can have stuff ready to go. In whatever form that might be. But that again comes down to looking at your habits and realizing where you're slipping up the most, or where you feel like you're struggling the most, and just starting to address that first, and then just pick your your habits apart from there, really.
So
because really your physical body, your physical being is just the manifestation of your habits, really, at the end of the day, isn't it? It's just your habits, fitness habits, eating habits, and the culmination of both of them. So if you change your habits, your body will change. If you change your habit back, your body will change back, which is where I mentioned earlier on, when you come off a diet and just slowly slip back to your eating habits that you used to have, you slowly slip back to having the body that you used to have as well.
Exactly. Yeah, so true. Real quick here, I've got some Crave as well, just to kind of contrast with it. Once again, you got the same kind of stuff, like protein, or how much of a healthy meal it is, you like for like football or whatever, for like coursework or whatever. And then it says here for under it says fat of which saturates, so you've got 14 grams of fat of which saturates 4.1, carbohydrates 69 grams, of which sugars 29 grams.
Jeez, what was that? What was that for fat again? Sorry, buddy. I'm just going to work through these.
Fat is 14 grams, and of which saturates is 4.1.
So fat is 14, which is medium.
Yeah.
Saturated fat was what? Sorry, 4 point.
It's saturated fat's 4.1 grams.
4.1. So that's medium, but it only needs to be up to 5 to be considered high.
Yeah. Yeah. The sugars is so it's 69 grams of carbohydrates, of which sugars 29 grams.
Yeah. Wow.
Deep red.
Wow. So deep red, and like I said, that's more than the fruit and fiber. So that's not much more than fruit and fiber, but that is more than the fruit and fiber as well. And which do you know what? Like, Crave's essentially chocolate, like pillows stuffed with chocolate. So you would expect it to be higher. I would expect it to be much more higher than that is, which just tells you just how high that fruit and fiber actually is as well. And again,
The salt
Just out of curiosity, you go on, buddy. Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah.
salt's slightly less because it's
Mhm.
0.95 grams, but it would still be medium, I think, as well. So
It would, yeah,
yeah,
it
so
would, and it's closer to being high than to being low
yeah.
as well at 0.9 as well. So, yeah, a little bit of an eye opener. Out of curiosity, buddy, those two that we've just broken down there, do any of them have the colours on?
The So yeah, they both have the colours on actually. So the Wheatos
Really?
has got it on, and then the Crave has it on at the front as well, in the bottom left. So yeah, but the Crave's got it on, but you can just see, man, they're like all orange and then the red sugar.
Yeah, which is a little bit surprising to me because normally, like I say, if foods aren't quite so good for you and not as good as they'd like you to think, a lot of companies hide that. They don't put the colours on because they don't have to do that by law. They have to put the information on there that we can use this chart with to really interpret what it is that we're eating. Like I've mentioned before, like I've literally got this printed off on the fridge just because it's easier than trying to stand there and remember different values, different numbers, different ranges, different brackets, to just be able to get something out and go, oh, okay, this is a little bit high in sugar, I'm training this afternoon, not so bad, you know. Or you could even keep it where you could have it keep it handy on your phone, keep it in your purse, your wallet, or whatever it is, and you can actually use it in the shop. You know, you can actually use it in the shop to avoid bringing stuff home that's going to lead to sort of you slipping up later on. You know, if you buying something knowing full well that you're going to eat it, because who buys stuff to waste it?
Yeah.
Chances are if you're buying something, you plan on eating it at some point. So can you use this to identify whether it's a food that you even want in your diet at all or not? You know, or is it best left on the shelf? And you know, you can go away and make choices that are going to get you closer to where it is that you are trying to get to, you know, when it comes to your fitness and your goals and stuff like that. So I feel as though it's definitely it's a skill that I think we should be teaching in school, how to read food labels, because it's 90% of the battle to making good food choices. It really is. You know,
No, I totally agree.
I think I came out of school with a better understanding of nutrition than my parents and my grandparents,
Yeah.
because of course the further back you go, the less we've known about it and the less research we've had, but the less urgent it's been, because
Sure.
diet was arguably better when my parents were growing up and their parents were growing up. Like I say, they weren't getting Mars bars off the shelf. Like my granddad, 75-year-old, he's never eaten a pizza in his life. Do you know what I mean? Like he's just, he will not he's funny, like he will not eat anything that is not traditional, proper sort of like our food. Do you know what I mean? I've never seen him with a Chinese. I've never seen him with an Indian. I've never seen him do a pizza. He just likes he's healthy, like he's hearty foods, because that's what he grew up with, you know. So it's more and more important now that this nutritional understanding keeps being developed and keeps being pushed, because we've got a lot more freedom to make these choices ourselves now. You know, even like if you think about like someone comes out of school and potentially even college who hasn't got a great idea about nutrition and then goes off to uni and lives by themselves, and they've got no idea what's good food choices or what's healthy, and they're making these choices by themselves for the first time. Like I had a rough idea about nutrition when I was 21, and I could still be like a little bit dubious of some of the food choices I made back in the day, you know. So granted, you can get away with it a little bit better while you're younger, but of course, like I say, that understanding goes so far, because we've mentioned ourselves, but you know, your metabolism slows down over time. You might not need that information coming out of school or coming out of college. When you hit 30, 40 years old, how much more important is that information?
Oh yeah.
You know, it really is. So again, I do think that this is really important, obviously, and something that we should be pushing. And the more people that know how to use this information, how to read food labels, you know, it shines the spotlight on these on these food companies and the way that they are trying to pull the wool over our eyes. Like, you think how many foods these days are marketed towards this idea of self-care, you know, in a time, in an era where, you know, there's a lot of focus on mental health and taking care of your own mental health, and this idea of, oh, take a mental health day if you need to, and that sort of thing. You know, we're all about wellness and well-being. We need to be getting good food choices in there as well. You know, we really do. We've got a couple of extra slides that we can look at as well. But if we can just jump straight to the last slide, actually, buddy, if you don't mind, the one that's got the it's got like a barbecue pork, spicy barbecue pulled pork wedges, yeah. So this was because the other examples that we've got, and I appreciate you giving us a look into the breakfast cupboard this morning, buddy, as well, so we can break down some different stuff. Like you say, this is just the color chart, the color chart in action sort of thing. You know, if you've never seen it, this might be the sort of thing that you might see. A food that, you know, I think this food uses the color chart the other way around, in the sense that I would look at that and think, wow, that's just going to be so fatty, so greasy, that's going to be so bad for you. Whereas they say, right, hang on a second, we're just going to show our cards. We're just going to we're just going to let you know, on using the color system. Yeah, we're high in fat, but we're low in saturated fat, which you might not be, that might not be a natural assumption to make when you look at something like that. You know, when you look at a product like that, when you read the description, cooked pulled pork in a chipotle chili sauce, topped with sliced jalapeno chilies and Monterey Jack cheese with potato wedges. I don't look at that and assume it's going to be low in saturated fat. Like, not at all. So maybe the fact that they've come out and said, look, we're low in saturated fat, we're only medium in sugars and salt as well, which you might not think, because sugars go into a lot of sauces. You know, I mentioned like baked beans and stuff like that earlier on. Even like stuff that you wouldn't think is going to have a load of sugar in, dolmio sauces, bolognese sauces,
Yeah, no, it's true.
all of that sort of thing. Again, you look at the recipe, or if you look at the food label, it can be a little bit of an eye opener again with those sorts of things. You're arguably better off just making your own bolognese sauce from scratch if you're that way inclined, because I don't know about you, buddy, but I really enjoy the process of cooking, making a meal. Really therapeutic. Stick a podcast on, stick an album on, whatever it is.
Definitely.
You know, have a bit dance around the kitchen while you're on. You know, it's one of them things that we've talked about, and it occupies your mind and brain at the same time. You know, and puts you in a lot more of a position of power when it comes to your own food choices and what's going in your body. You know, we actually just on Monday gone, during the drop-ins, we were looking at healthier options that we could use to make pizzas at home. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like, why get a greasy takeaway one for 7-8 quid or whatever it is, when you can make one at home that's going to have maybe you can still use a proper tortilla base. You can stack a couple of tortillas. I've seen it done that way. Cauliflower rice bases, you know, you can get that sort of thing. You can go on and you can even pre-order. You can even order pre-made, like, gluten-free pizza bases and stuff like that these days. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And then from there, you know, pick a tomato puree that's not quite as high in sugar to put on the top. Pick some toppings that come from a better sauce, you know, and make sure that you're getting some veg on there as well. You know, I was saying the other day, like, maybe it's just get yourself like a pizza base, however you're going to do this healthy pizza base idea. Then you can put yourself like I say, a low sugar tomato puree on top. Get yourself some diced chicken breast, chuck some peppers on there, a little bit of sweet corn maybe, and that's going to give you a good whack of protein. Like I just said to the guys on Monday, I said, like, if I can say to you that, like, going and getting a protein snack in means you can go and have a slice of pizza, like, we're laughing. We've got it cracked then, really, haven't we? Do you know what I mean? Because who doesn't like pizza? Like, if someone said to me, yeah, you need to boost your protein intake, make sure you're having a couple of slices of pizza a day, I can do that, no bother. Do you know what I mean? It really, really is. So that's something I'm going to have a go trying this week, I think, because eventually the plan is to get our heads together and actually put out a little bit of sort of like a rough sort of cookbook, you know, whereas to give people healthy options, because like I say, not only will you get an unhealthier option from a takeaway, but you're going to spend more as well. Do you know what I mean? Like you order if we were to get from the Chinese, it's probably going to cost between me and Alex 30 quid easy, at least 20 quid, if not 30 quid easy. Whereas I can do a chicken egg fried rice at home.
Yeah,
absolutely no bother. And then, you know, and then obviously you're getting a healthier source of food. Of course, it might take a little bit of trial and error to get the taste anything like a proper authentic takeaway. But of course, if we're just trying to get something that satisfies those cravings while keeping you on track with your healthy eating and stuff like that, I feel like that sort of thing would be really, really like priceless, really. You know, getting something that feels like a treat that is actually good for you. You know. and saving you a little bit of money in the meantime, you know. So it's a win-win as far as I can see.
Yeah, exactly. I think I think stuff like fried rice, mate. That's an easy hitter as well. It's a lot easier than you think. As long as you buy a couple different sauces, then that's it. You can make it yourself. You can put as many vegetables as you want in it, and obviously buff up the nutrition to big time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, that's a big one. Like even something like a stir fry, that's you can make like a pretty easy one yourself with your own
Hmm.
stuff, and
Hmm.
there you go.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. Do you have a source of choice, or like a go-to that you've sort of got in the cupboard that you'll sort of rely on if you do just want to spice things up a little bit?
Yeah, there's a Korean sauce. It's like a Korean chili paste called gochujang. And
Okay.
if you look in any like Asian supermarket, it's usually in like a square box, and it's like a chili bean paste, and it's like kind of similar texture to puree. And you can get that, and you
Okay.
use your spoon out, and you put that in, and you can make like a Korean fried rice with that, like super easy,
Mm,
and it's absolutely
nice.
lush as well. It just adds a bit of flavor and a bit of color as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
that's definitely one of the go to ones, 100%.
definitely, buddy. And does that will that sort of obviously raise the taste or any veg and
Hmm.
stuff like that that's in
Yeah, of
there as
course.
well?
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
It has like its own kind of flavor as well. It's like a tiny bit spicy, but it's nothing
Mhm.
overwhelming.
Oh,
And
okay. Would you mind just typing that in the chat, buddy, just so
I'll tell you what. I'll
I'm
go
gonna
and get
say
it. So
just so
I'll
that
tell you what it
me
looks
and the
like.
guys at home know what it is exactly that we're looking for. Because I find that of course like I've spoken to Daniel about this before, and obviously the amount of
Yeah.
time that he's lived over in Asia.
So
Ah,
yeah.
okay, okay,
So
spot
and
on,
you
buddy.
go
So
find it like that. It's just called gochujang, and it's just hot pepper paste and
goju jam,
or
nice,
red pepper
nice.
paste, and you can find it.
Yeah,
It's really good.
yeah, nice, nice. Um, Excellent, buddy. Thank you very much because we've talked before as well about how easy is it to be put off veg and healthy foods when they're so bland.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you know what I
definitely.
mean? Like you the point this out to me, like sort of internationally we're regarded as having pretty poor quality of food,
Yeah,
quality of diet. Um,
totally.
Especially when it comes to with how we prepare and season our veg and stuff like that. So maybe do look abroad at some different cultures for some options to spice things up because if you can flavor your veg right, they just become so much more enjoyable. You know, it doesn't become a challenge to get in. You know, like I went from just boiling or steaming broccoli to once it's been boiled for a couple of minutes, drain it, and then sort of like saute it or sort of like shallow fry it in butter, which makes a whole difference. Like I could do that and just sit and eat a bowl of broccoli now.
Yeah, it sounds
Do you know what
it
I
sounds
mean?
lush.
Where
It sounds
yeah,
good. Yeah.
a little bit of salt and pepper on there as well. Like because like I mentioned earlier on, I am sort of a little bit fussy sometimes with what spices and what sauces I will have. So I appreciate that recommendation there, buddy. I'll definitely have to check that out because I'm not a massive spice lover, but
It's not
again,
too
it's
spicy. Yeah, it's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like a little bit of heat and just this idea of just flavoring things up a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keep things fresh.
You
I can
can
eat a chicken egg fried rice with
oh,
no sauce, but
definitely.
then if I fancy it the third day, if I do want to mix it up a little bit, add a little bit of sauce in there. It's like having a totally different meal, isn't it? You know?
Just yeah, having a bit of you can even make like a good sauce with just like using for your vegetables. Just use sesame oil and
Yeah,
add
yeah.
just add a bit of soy sauce in as well, and then there you go,
Mhm.
like a bit of dark soy sauce, and then I might add like occasionally like a tiny bit of like chili oil or like maybe like a little bit or like tiny bit of like sugar. I know we talked about that, but like if it's your own sauce, you know exactly how much sugar is going into it. You can put like
That's exactly
a
it.
tiny bit in. So yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, creating your own sauce. It's not to say it's going to eliminate sugar,
yeah,
but you're
yeah,
not going to be getting more in than you are aware of, which
yeah,
is
exactly.
massively helpful when it comes to cracking and stuff like that as well. So yeah, definitely. If you are finding that your veg is a little bit bland, of course, by all means look at different options out there because cauliflower broccoli might not be for you. There's so many different choices. We've got we could go on all day, different vegetables we could have. Do you know what I mean? You've got your squashes, you've got, of course, your root vegetables, you've got stuff like your tomatoes. Of course, there's this idea of try and eat the rainbow, and that's not necessarily just Skittles. That is this idea of try and get as many different sort of coloured veg in your diet as you can as well. As good as greens are, we
Yeah.
need a mix. Because if go on, buddy, sorry.
No, that's yeah. I was just saying, like, yeah, tonight I think I'm gonna have like just like some like the Nando's chicken sauce with some
Hmm.
chicken with some
Hmm.
quinoa and some salad, and then there you go. It's like that's a super easy meal. You put it,
It
you
is.
get it in the Nando's sauce. You put it in the bag, wrap it up in the oven like 20 minutes.
Hmm.
Quinoa, boil the water, and then the salad. You just need to like rinse it, and then there you go. You literally like it's like a meal in 30 minutes, and it's like healthy and delicious. So.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not sure sort of how long quinoa sort of keeps in the fridge and stuff like that. But what's stopping you prepping a couple of days' food at a time if you're doing that?
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean? Just get yourself a couple of bags, couple of chicken breasts, and you can actually meal prep. So when you're making one meal, you're not then making the same meal again the next day. You've got 2 days without washing up. That's certainly how I look at it.
No,
Do you know what I
100%.
mean? A day's meal prep means that I'm going to eat for the next 3 days, and I'm not needing to wash a single thing up by Tupperware. That's one of the biggest wins for me for sure.
100%.
But when it comes round to thinking about varying your diet as well, because again, it was something that I fell into quite early on in my training sort of career, really. This idea of eating the same things regular, day after day after day after day. Because I started with quite a bodybuilder minded approach because that was what led me into training, films like Pumping Iron and
Oh,
seeing
one
Arnie
of
and
the best
and,
ever.
and, 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 and certain people like that was what got me into that. So at the time, I wasn't necessarily thinking too much about a varied diet. I was just thinking about eating a surplus of calories that's going to gain muscle, really. So, and with bodybuilders, they will eat a lot of the same meals just for ease. Like I say, they'll do like a big, like a rice cooker full at the start of the week, and just each meal scoop a cup out. They'll have pre-cooked meat ready to go, be it chicken, be it steak. Pull that out, maybe some green beans or some broccoli. That might be all. I watched a documentary on one bodybuilder once called Chris Faldo, and he, for I think 7 months leading up to prep, every single day was the same food. The same food. He was like up at 4 o'clock for a bowl of oats and 12 egg whites, and then he'd pop home for his first breakfast, and it'd be another bowl of oats. I think maybe with like an egg white omelette or something like that, and it was just like the same thing every single day. And what it does eventually, um, it leads to deficiency of stuff that isn't in there at all. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're getting greens in that's got like loads of zinc in, magnesium, whatever it might be, you're getting loads of greens every single day. That's great. Do you know what? That's potentially better than what you're eating right now. Greens every meal could be a really, really good starting point. But what you then want to build to is making sure that you're getting a variety of stuff in. So stuff that you're deficient in for a day or two doesn't add up to be something that you're deficient in massively over a month. Do you know what I mean? Because your levels are going to be well off where they should be. And again, MyFitnessPal is really handy at tracking that because it'll work out how many of these micronutrients you've had. And not only, have you not hit your target for the day, it'll give you the week view at the end of the week, and you realize if you haven't hit your target by that much every day, by the end of the week you're way off your target when it comes to potentially potassium. That was one thing with one client I was working with once, and I just started saying, like, you've got to just eat a banana. Like, if you're not allergic to it, we've got to get some potassium in you somehow. Like, just eat a banana. I don't mind how long it takes. I don't mind if you have to do it across 2 or 3 sittings across the day if you're not keen on the texture. We can look at stuff like supplements and stuff like that as well, and
Coconut water as well.
Coconut water, yeah, but I said we've got to get some potassium in you because sooner or later, you're going to you're losing weight and you're healthier than you were, but you're going to have some kind of health effect, really from not getting enough of these nutrients that we need at the end of the day. So one last thing that I did want to point out just before we sort of start to wrap up for the day, when you're looking at the ingredient list on the back of a food product or whatever it might be, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, buddy. Actually, the ingredients are listed in how sort of present they are in the food. So the first thing on the ingredient list will be the thing that there is the most of in your food. Yeah. So as you work down the list, you can see there's less and less of these ingredients
Didn't know
going
that,
in.
actually.
Did you not know? So the main ingredient in this is actually water, which is going to be probably a main base for the barbecue sauce that it's based in. Would be my guess. That's probably where that's going. Then of course we've got potato afterwards because we've got our wedges. So the pulled pork is actually the thing that there's third less of actually in in this meal altogether. You know, so again. Something that you can just look at and just you can use that information to again maybe think about how you're going to interpret the taste of something as well. If I look and see like the fourth highest ingredient in there is red onion and the fifth one is just regular onion, I don't like onion, so this product isn't for
I
me at
know,
all.
same. I
You know?
mean, onion I don't mind, but red onion I'm not a fan of, like, at all.
Ah, okay, okay.
So
Is it like a flavor thing? Is it a
it's too
taste thing?
crunchy.
'Cause
It's like really,
for me, it's texture. For
ugh,
me, it's
it's like
texture. Yeah.
like the normal onion, like it goes soft if it's in like a stew or something, so it's fine. But like
Hmm.
a red onion,
Hmm.
it's like really crunchy and it
Yeah.
reeks as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, not fun, not fun, not fun at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. I don't know what texture onion would need to be to get me to eat it because
Man, like,
red onion would just be far too crispy and far too fresh and far too strong, I think.
yeah,
Whereas your fried onions, once you've cooked them off and they do go a little bit softer, again is a little bit more like on the it's too soft for us if that makes sense. You know
right,
what I
yeah,
mean? I know I sound like Goldilocks here, like this
no,
one's
no,
too
no,
hard, this one's too soft. But at the same time, again, it's just never been for me. I've never been a fan of onion. So again, I could look at that and say, right, this product isn't for me. If that if it was onion powder and it was like right bang down the bottom of the ingredients list and there's just a touch of it, because how often is onion used in a seasoning and a barbecue seasoning for sure? And barbecue
all
is
the
one of
time,
my favorite flavorings of all time. Like if,
yeah,
if I'm gonna have sauce for something, it chance to be a barbecue sauce, but again, we're thinking about right how much sugar's in there, how much and again in this how much onions in there. You can see actually the onion powder is in there further down. So if the actual chunks of onion weren't in it, I'd be saying, right, okay, sign us up for some of this. Whereas chunks of onion, not for me. I'm going to go and look elsewhere. So it's not the biggest thing in terms of a health takeaway and being able to look and use the information to interpret your health, but it could just give you an idea of what the quality of the food might actually be. Do you know what I mean? If I looked at this and the pulled pork was right down the bottom and there was barely any pulled pork, I'd be thinking to myself, well, it's saying it's pulled pork, but I'm not going to get as much protein from this as I would like because I can see that the pulled pork isn't actually like one of the most prevalent ingredients in the dish as well. So again, we can use that information as well. And then of course we're probably going to have any kind of allergy information on there that might be on there, be it peanuts, gluten, wheat, any of that sort of thing. Of course, foods do need to let you know of any allergies that you need to be aware of. Cracks me up when you buy a packet of nuts and it says on the back may contain nuts. Like I'll be quite disappointed if they didn't.
dude.
Um,
How bad is it though, right? Because I feel like you're like me a bit, like where like you buy something, it'll be like a wrap or something, right? Like from a meal deal, and then it doesn't say, it'll say like like a chicken and bacon wrap or something like that. You're like, yeah, this is gonna be nice, this, and then you bite into it, and there's like something that you hate in it, like because it's not
mate,
listed,
all
but
the
it'll be,
time, all the time.
and it's like the worst one for me. The one that I really don't like is cucumber, and when I bite into
Ah, okay,
something
okay,
and I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
I can taste cucumber. It's like
yeah,
I can't
yeah,
eat
yeah,
it, so
yeah,
I literally can't finish it. So,
yeah.
uh,
Mayonnaise does that with me.
oh yeah,
Mayonnaise does
I
that
can
with us.
see.
Yeah. I got myself a mango. It was a chicken with a mango sauce from Subway last
Yeah,
year,
yeah,
and I'm like, this is gonna be lovely. Like chicken and mango
yeah,
go
yeah.
together so well. And then I ordered it. She finished wrapping it in front of us, and I read the fine print on the menu, and it said that the mango sauce was mayonnaise based. And I was like, I literally like took it from her, walked over to the bin outside, and just dropped it straight in. I was like, I'm not even gonna eat this. This was a mistake. That was a mistake. But you know what? When you get it's terrible for like any sandwiches if you do buy a sarnie out on the go. If I was going to get a ham and cheese sandwich from like in a meal deal or something like that, if I was out and about, you get them and you haven't read the small print and it says, oh, it's with mayonnaise. I'm like, well,
It's
that's me
always
written off
stuff like
straight
that.
away. Then that's me done. Yeah, mayonnaise. And do you know what the other one that sneaks up on me?
What's
It's
that?
bloody peas pudding. Peas pudding. I
Yeah,
cannot
yeah.
I
I've seen
cannot I
that
cannot
stuff as well.
stand it. But you go to a not barbecue, a buffet. If you've ever been to a buffet and they've got like ham sarnies. And you
Yeah, there's
just tuck into
always
one.
peas
It's ham and
pudding.
peas. Oh, it's always ham and peas pudding, and it gets us every time. Because
Like, yeah, for me, it's like it's always crunchy stuff that I'm not a fan of usually. Like, and
is
like I
it?
say,
Yeah, yeah.
it's certain peppers. They're always slipped into stuff that I
Mhm,
hate the
mhm.
crunch of it.
Yeah,
Um, Cucumber and then red onions. They're like the big one.
yeah,
They always
yeah.
put it. And sometimes I'll be like, I'll look at something, and it'll look absolutely lush except for this one thing that I really hate, and I'm like,
Hmm, hmm.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
devastating.
definitely. Yeah, which that's where I normally get the idea of. Do you know what? I'm going to make that myself, and I'm
Yeah,
just not going to
exactly. Yeah.
put that in. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, yeah, definitely. But
Just
yeah,
imagining you in the shop when you'd read that, and it
mate,
was like,
mate.
it must have been
I,
like, oh.
I was gutted. I remember texting Alex as well. I'd seen this thing. I tell you what, mate, I'd gone the day before
Yeah,
and they'd said, oh, it was one of them things, like McDonald's do sometimes where they say, like, this sandwich is available on a Monday. You can get this one on a Tuesday.
got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She'd said that's not available till a Wednesday. So I'd gone back for this sandwich. I'd made a specific trip to go back for this sandwich.
Man.
And then, yeah, I pretty much like, do you know what? I think I might have taken a bite just out of, do you know what? I've got to this far. I'm gonna give it a go. And straight away, it's one of them where in the back of your mind you're not gonna enjoy it straight away.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like I didn't even get that mouthful down. I don't think it was just straight in the bin.
It's horrible when you get done as well by like you order some food from like wherever, and then it's like it's nice so you don't ask for the thing that you don't like in it, and then when it comes, they've like left the thing in, and you just think like, oh.
I
You
know.
have to like pick, especially if it's like onion or something. You got like pick like little bits of onion out. It's like
Yeah. Oh, definitely, mate. I've bought I've bought sauces before from the shop and sieved them just to get rid of like bits of onion and stuff like that.
yeah,
I'm just gonna sieve this to get all the stuff off that I like. But of course, we are all different. We like different stuff, which is why a diet that works for me won't necessarily work for you and won't necessarily work for somebody else. Like I've had somebody come up to me in the gym and say, right, can I pay you however much it is to do as a food plan? I'm like, no, because I'm not just going to tell you what to go away and eat. I can sit with you and put a plan together, but I'm not just going to say, right, your breakfast is going to be 3 eggs for you to turn around next week and say, oh, I don't like eggs. I'm like, well, do you know what I mean? Again, my breakfast, my eating plan might not work for anybody else, and that is when that's before you even get onto the idea of different body types and splitting up your macronutrients differently. Like someone who was like ourselves, that's a little bit more carb tolerant. If I put someone who was an endomorph on my carb heavy diet, they're just blown up. They would just blown up. It's not giving their body what they need. It's giving their body what I need, which isn't going to work for anybody. So that is where the idea of just a food plan being written for you is so difficult to stick to. Like I've never found a single one online pre-written that I've been able to stick to, because then it's like, oh, right, for dinner have a tin of mackerel. I'm like, I don't like mackerel. There's that out the window. What do I do from there? That is where it's handy to figure out just how much protein you need, which I sort of mentioned earlier on, how many calories you need, which is a conversation in and of itself, because there's a difference between how many calories your body needs overall and in an ideal setting, and how many calories you should aim on a weekly basis or a daily basis right now to start connecting where we are now to where that point is. Because like I mentioned earlier on, if you jump from point A to point B, you're not going to be able to stick it out. Like I say, I have tried going up to 5 meals a day. I've tried the 1,000-calorie protein shake, like a mass gainer and stuff like that, and it didn't work for me. Like you said earlier on, I'm sure mass gainers have got their place. If you're doing the dirty bulk, certain body types, certain sports would probably allow for it a little bit better. But again, that is why we're all different, and that is where this information is so important. Just helping you guys be more clued in at how to make choices for yourself, because at the end of the day, nobody else can make the decision for you and tell you what you should be eating and what your body needs, and removing those barriers to eating, and removing those barriers to good food as well. So hopefully today's session just gives you a little bit of an idea of just, it might have highlighted some areas that you think, okay, my diet, my nutrition needs a little bit of work in this area. I might have given you an idea of just some of the other stuff that we've done at Media Savvy that you want to go and check out, be it joining the drop-ins on a Monday morning, be it some of the nutrition that we talk about in some of the other sessions, or maybe you want to go on to one of the further courses that explores this a little bit further, by all means, drop me an email. Let me know how you found today's session, and how much you feel like it might have helped, and maybe it's even giving you a couple of questions that you could pop on the post that's on our social media at the minute. That I could get around to dealing with when we do this Q&A later on in the week as well. So, I am always here to help try, and I'm always an email away to help try and sift through some of the maziness that is the nutritional world, and just knowing where to start. Do you know what I mean? Because like there's been times where, and again, it comes down to where you are, what you've got available, what's even available in the shops, where you just don't even know where to start. Do you know what I mean? There's times of where do I even start? And we actually found, tell you what, I'm going to see, how can I put that in the chat? See if I can get it in the chat. Me and the guys in the drop-ins found a really, really good website last week where what you do, you tick what ingredients you've got in the house.
Right,
like, I've got a couple of eggs left. I've got some white rice to use. I've got this sauce handy. I've got some beef stock or whatever it might be. And it literally just pulls up recipes from the internet that you can make with the ingredients that you've got in. I'm trying to think what it was called. Guys, if you're still watching and you've got it handy, would you mind banging it in the chat? Because I know Gaz has been using it a little bit the last couple of weeks as well. Like, mate, we found recipe ideas that I'd never even thought of in my life, to be honest. Just pulling out what's in the fridge. Recipes using what's in my fridge. Yes. And it's called supercook.com. So I'll stick that in. I'll stick that in the chat as well. Yeah. It's absolutely nothing to do with me or us as in Media Savvy, but it is a handy resource to have. Like I say, Gary the other week was saying that he was struggling to get to the shops. And he felt like his food choices were dropping off and suffering because of what he had available to him in the house. And like I say, this actually pointed him in the direction of a few different ideas. So rather than thinking to yourself, I've got nothing in, I'm just going to order a takeaway tonight, you might be able to knock yourself up a decent meal. It might not be perfect but this is where we've got to get away from this mindset of like either on the wagon or off the wagon. Like I'm either doing it or I'm not. There is a whole spectrum. There is a whole journey that lays between like chicken, rice and broccoli every day, every meal every day, and the diet that you're having now, or 100%. What the perfect diet for you looks like down the line. It's down the line for a reason. You're going to build up to it, and you're going to start making little tweaks to your diet now, which is where getting a couple of different recipe ideas can come in, because that does really seem to be a huge sticking point for people. It's like, right, I need inspiration for what meals to actually cook myself. Because I'm eating the same stuff. I'm eating junk. I'm just eating whatever's easy. And normally it's finding recipes that stand out to you, either that you enjoy cooking and eating, or just one of the other is a bonus. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It can go a really, really long way to helping you get some better foods into your diet, for sure. So definitely check that side out as well if that is something that you're struggling with. I'll make a point to give it a shout out in the Q&A this week as well, because I do feel it is such a good resource when you are getting to that point where you're like old Mother Hubbard and the cupboards are a little bit bare, and you do need some inspiration what you can make with like a slice of cheese, one egg, like a little bit of vinegar, or whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? Whatever you end up with, there's some really good ideas on there as well. And it even gives you the option to it'll say, have you got, and it'll pull up lists of other ingredients as well. Yes. So you could say to yourself, right, if I had corn flour, for example, and it'll bring up loads of extra recipes, so you can say, all right, I'll just pop to the shop and get some corn flour. So it's really, really, really helpful for stuff like that, and you might get some good ideas off of there for sure. So definitely give that a go. Let us know how you get on. If you don't mind just rolling on to the last slide for us then, buddy, and we'll get ourselves wrapped up for the day. So as always, guys, please don't forget to complete the survey that is in the description below the video. As always, your feedback's really important to us. We like to know where we're helping you guys, what we're doing well. and of course where we can be even better in meeting you guys and what you want to be learning and what you hope to take away from the sessions. As always, the link to the fitness video is in the description as well. I've picked us just a nice, if you've never done one of our courses before, of course, with today being the first session, if you've never done one of our courses, at the end of each session we do like a fitness video, or I'll hook you up with a fitness video that you can go away, do, and if you want, let us know how you got on. Today's is just a nice stretching video to get you moving again. With it being the first one of the course, I'm aware that it might be the first time you're thinking about exercising, moving, getting active in a little while. You know, maybe as lockdowns lifting, things are becoming available. Hopefully it feels as though certain pressures are lifting, and you feel as though you're in more of a headspace to start thinking about your food and your exercise a little bit more as well. So yeah, just getting you moving, that first step, getting things moving a little bit, and maybe working a couple of muscles that you haven't worked in a little while. So definitely check that out. Like I say, the link is in the description as well. And failing that, we will be back next Wednesday at exactly the same time to roll on. And that's where I say we're going to get a little bit of a look at how the body works, how the heart works, that sort of thing. And looking at bad eating habits further down the line, and how we actually address specific bad eating habits. You know, like we all have those pitfalls that we fall into, you know, where it's just a case of, we've talked about it before, you know, sort of like paired eating habits. You go to the cinema, you feel like you've got to get popcorn, especially if it's your first time at the cinema in a year and a half because they've been shut because of COVID. You're going to think to yourself, right, I'm going to have a popcorn, I might have a hot dog. Daniel, you know I'm as guilty as anybody when I go up to watch the Eagles play up at Newcastle. Halftime hot dog is just a staple. Do you know what I mean? If I was going every week, or to a couple of games every week, that would be a problem. Do you know what I mean? And it can be just as easy as stuff as when you make a cuppa, having a couple of biscuits. You know, that's maybe a little bit more common example. Grab a couple of biscuits every cuppa, that sort of thing. Or this idea of, I'm starting my diet Monday, I'm just going to eat everything in sight until then. You know, which again, if you're in a perpetual state of about to start a diet, you know, you're always going to be in this, just eat this while I've got chance. Whereas really, reality says you're probably never even going to start that diet. No. You know, so you'd be better off just saying to yourself, I'm not going to have it. I'm not dieting. And that's where you might have that thing in moderation a little bit more. But yeah, definitely plenty to look forward to in the next couple of weeks. Of course, we've got another 6 sessions to do. Takes us well into summer. We've got the weather on our side. We can get out now. We can be walking. We can be active. You can even do today stretching exercises outside if you want to get a little bit of sun and a little bit of vitamin D. But other than that, guys, that'll do us for today. I think we'll call it there. Of course, like I say, if you've got any questions you want me to address in the Q&A, get them over to us one way or the other. If you've got any questions that you'd like to keep a little bit more private, by all means, just drop me an email. And of course, I'm always happy to help out with stuff like that. We haven't got any more live streams booked until next week's session starts. So if I don't see you before then, I will catch you next Tuesday or next Wednesday on one of our streams. Thank you for you guys jumping in the chat and for having a little bit of crack. Have a good week. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves. And unless you've got anything to add, buddy, we'll call it there.
I think that's it, mate. I think all good, yeah.
Nice one, buddy. Well, thank you for jumping on us this morning, buddy. A pleasure as always. And yeah, guys, stay safe and take care of yourselves.